I stood there. In the lobby I had helped rebuild with my own bare hands. As my mother tapped the side of a champagne glass to quiet the room, the staff meeting had turned into something else. Something ceremonial. Dad cleared his throat. We're proud to announce that the future of this hotel is in capable hands. Ryan will be stepping in as our new CEO. Applause, hesitant at first, then louder. My brother, Ryan, adjusted his collar, grinned wide, and shot me that cocky smile he's been perfecting since high school. I didn't flinch. I didn't cry. I simply nodded, stepped out into the hallway, pulled out my phone, and made one call. It's time. Let's move forward. I didn't need fireworks. I had something better. A plan. One that had been in motion for weeks, quietly gathering strength, waiting for this exact moment. They thought I'd be crushed. They thought I'd stay silent. But here's the thing about people like me. We don't fall apart. We fall back and strike smarter. Ever sacrificed everything for your family, only to be pushed aside when it mattered most? Stay with me, because this isn't just a story about betrayal. I wasn't born with a silver spoon, but I was born in the linen room of our family's old seaside hotel. Okay, not literally, but close. My parents opened the Driftwood Inn the same year I was born. Small, rustic, humble, but they poured everything into it. Weekends, holidays, even birthdays. So I learned early, love in our family wasn't expressed in hugs or words. It was shown in check-in lists, vacuumed hallways, and 4 6-star guest ratings. And I gave it all back. While other kids partied, I was folding towels. While Ryan, my younger brother, was off crashing dirt bikes and barely passing classes, I was learning how to run front desk systems before I turned 16. After college, I got a job in the city, bought my own condo, built a quiet, independent life. But when COVID hit and bookings dried up, Mom called in tears. Dad was considering selling. The bank was circling. They needed help. Without hesitation, I left my job, rented out my condo, packed my things, and came home. And I went to war for this hotel, negotiated with creditors, restructured supplier contracts, launched a website, integrated online booking systems, trained staff on digital marketing, even ran the night audit myself when we couldn't afford extra shifts. I sold my condo 3 months in, just to cover payroll. That place was my one piece of independence, but I thought, this is family. It'll be worth it. And it was, for a while. The Driftwood turned around. Occupancy climbed back. We got featured in a regional travel blog. My parents smiled again. I thought I had earned their trust, their respect. Then Ryan came home. He'd been living in Austin, working on himself, whatever that meant, had a new girlfriend, flashy clothes, no resume to speak of, but charisma in buckets. My mother beamed when she saw him. Dad hugged him like a prodigal son. And me? I shook his hand like I was meeting a client I didn't trust. At first, Ryan was just helping out, sitting in on meetings, shadowing me, offering branding advice. But then I noticed changes. Invoices went missing. He started throwing out my marketing materials and rebranding the website, replacing elegant coastal aesthetics with loud neon text and amateur photography. He called staff meetings where he pitched cocktail bar renovations before even reviewing the P&L. Then, I caught wind he'd applied for a liquor license in the hotel's name without telling anyone. I confronted my parents. He's not ready. He doesn't know the numbers. He hasn't done anything. Mom cut me off. Claire, sweetie, Ryan has natural leadership instincts, and the staff responds to him. You've been amazing behind the scenes. But this is a people-facing role. People-facing? I'd been the one dealing with angry guests and broken HVACs at midnight. But it didn't matter, because in their eyes, he was the showman. I was the scaffolding. Then came that meeting, the one where they named him CEO, and just like that, I was erased. No title, no recognition. Just a faint nod and the expectation that I'd keep doing the grunt work because you're so good at it. That night, I didn't scream, didn't argue. I just sat on the back steps of the kitchen, watching the ocean roll in under moonlight, and asked myself, how many more things do I have to give up before someone decides I'm enough? The answer? None. Because I wasn't going to wait for recognition anymore. I was going to take it, strategically, cleanly, and on my own terms. What they didn't know was that, for weeks, I'd been preparing, documenting, backing up files, reviewing contracts, and most importantly, reconnecting with someone who had once seen my value, a boutique hospitality investment firm in Charleston that had offered to buy the Driftwood 6 months ago. Back then, we declined. Now, they were very interested in a second conversation, especially with one condition, that I stay on as COO. They gave my brother the crown, but I held the castle's blueprints, and I was about to make very good use of them. The announcement was just the beginning. Within 72 hours of Ryan being named CEO, the hotel felt different, not in the way that guests would immediately notice, but in the way the staff whispered a little more in corners, and the weekly cleaning schedule disappeared from the break room wall. It started with a memo, subject line, strategic repositioning, immediate adjustments. Ryan had emailed the entire staff, not from his company account, but from his personal Gmail. He outlined a list of fast-track changes, including cutting the front desk night shift down to 1 staff member, terminating the contract with our locally owned laundry service, pausing staff meal allowances, and, my personal favorite, converting the library lounge into a craft cocktail experience room. Effective immediately. No budget, no input. Just a neon-soaked vision ripped from a cheap influencer playbook. I tried to stay calm. I scheduled a one-on-one with him the next morning. He showed up late, in sunglasses, with a smoothie in hand. Claire, you've got to stop resisting evolution. The Driftwood's brand is stale. We need edge. People want tequila flights, not book clubs. Ryan, we're a coastal family hotel. You're turning it into a Vegas afterthought. He leaned back in his chair, that grin creeping in again. You're stuck in the past. That's why Mom and Dad asked me to step up. I walked out of that meeting without another word. But inside, something snapped. That evening, I logged into our shared operations folder, only to find my access restricted. The HR database, locked. The financial dashboard, permission denied. Ryan had quietly revoked all my admin rights. He wasn't just trying to push me aside. He was trying to erase me. I poured a glass of wine, opened my personal backup drive, and started going through my archived files, guest metrics, revenue reports, payroll logs, everything I'd spent the last 18 months building from the ground up. It was all still there, but one file stopped me cold. Collateral use, property addendum, unsigned draft. It was dated 3 days before Ryan was announced as CEO. The document showed Ryan had been working with a private lender to secure a $400 no-dollar loan against the hotel, and had used my condo sale, the one that saved the hotel, as part of the guaranteed asset pool. I wasn't just being pushed out, I was being leveraged, and if his reckless spending tanked the hotel, I would be legally tied to the fallout. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I printed everything, line by line, every file, every email, every invoice that tied Ryan to financial negligence and backdoor maneuvering. Then I sent one email, not to my parents, to Anderson Wakefield, the managing partner of the boutique hospitality group that had tried to buy the Driftwood. Subject, acquisition interest, confidential update. The next morning, Anderson replied, "Let's talk. We've had our eye on the Driftwood. With the right leadership structure in place, this might be the perfect time." By noon, we were on a call. I told him everything, how I rebuilt the hotel, how Ryan was hemorrhaging the brand and siphoning trust, how I could restabilize operations within 60 days if given the green light. Anderson didn't hesitate. We'll move forward if we can secure a majority decision from ownership. You're part owner, correct? My heart sank. Technically, no. Even after all I'd sacrificed, my parents still held 100% equity. But I had something else. Leverage. Ryan's proposed loan, using shared family collateral without full disclosure, wasn't just unethical. It was borderline fraudulent. If I presented this to a lawyer, I could force a freeze on his executive power pending review. But I didn't want a messy legal war. I wanted precision, surgical clarity. So I made a plan. Over the next 5 days, I contacted 2 other local business owners who had turned down Ryan's strategic partnerships. They happily provided email trails of his unprofessional behavior, interviewed 3 staff members who had been terminated suddenly and were willing to write statements, documented the drop in customer satisfaction ratings and refund claims since his leadership began, and compiled it all in a clean, bound portfolio labeled Operational Risk and Leadership Malfeasance, Confidential Report. I requested a family board meeting. Mom hesitated. Dad said, "Claire, this isn't healthy." But I was calm, calculated. This isn't personal. This is about the hotel. You need to see what I've found. They agreed. I walked into that room with facts. Ryan walked in with charm. The boardroom smelled like cinnamon rolls and tension. It was the same room where I had helped design the new breakfast bar concept just 6 months ago. Now, that table felt colder, harder, like it knew what was coming. Ryan sauntered in 5 minutes late, button down untucked. A faux casual confidence that screamed, "I've already won." He gave me a wink, ready to clear the air. "Sis?" I didn't answer. I simply placed the bound report in front of each chair, one in front of Dad, one in front of Mom, and one directly across from Ryan. The cover page read, Operational Failures and Risk Summary, Post-Appointment Analysis, CEO Ryan Langford. Mom shifted uncomfortably. "Claire, what is this?" "It's everything you haven't been told." And then I began. I took them through the numbers first, cold and clean. Booking rates down 28% since Ryan's first public rebrand campaign. Refunds up 17%. Staff turnover had tripled in 30 days. Then came the screenshots, Slack messages, ignored warnings from accounting, vendor disputes from Ryan's preferred partners. "This isn't about personality." I said, "Steady, it's about liability." Ryan laughed. "Liability? Come on, Claire. This is a passion play because you didn't get the promotion." I turned to the next section, the loan. I watched my father's brow furrow as he read the page. Ryan had tried to secure a $400K loan against hotel assets without board consent and with personal collateral tied to my condo sale from 18 months ago. Dad looked at Ryan, jaw clenched. "Did you authorize this with our attorney?" I was just moving quickly," Ryan mumbled. Mom went pale. "You used Claire's financial contribution as leverage without her consent?" Ryan's voice rose. "She gave up that condo voluntarily. I thought we were a family. We don't keep score." I stood. "This isn't about score keeping. It's about governance. You made executive moves without authority, without consultation, and without understanding risk." I slid the final folder across the table. It held a signed letter of intent from Anderson Wakefield's firm, an offer to buy 60% of the driftwood with a clause that I would retain COO authority and full operational control. Dead silence. Then I spoke the line I had rehearsed all night. "Here are your options. 1. Accept the offer. Preserve the hotel's future. Protect your legacy. Or 2. Keep Ryan in place. And I walk, along with the staff who built this place back from zero. And when the bank comes knocking, don't say I didn't warn you." Dad said nothing for a long time. He stared at Ryan, then at the floor. Finally, he looked at me. "You did all this behind our backs?" I nodded. "No, I did it because you turned your backs." The vote wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Matter of fact, Mom abstained. Dad voted yes to accept the partnership, to reinstate me as operations head, and to remove Ryan from the CEO role effective immediately. Ryan stood so fast his chair skidded backward. "You're ruining this family." I stayed seated. "You did that the moment you turned the hotel into your playground." He stormed out, and just like that, the power shifted. But the story doesn't end there. The next day, I met with Anderson and finalized the acquisition terms. The Driftwood was officially backed by a firm that respected its legacy and its people. We rehired 3 staff members Ryan had let go, revoked the liquor license application, canceled the influencer deal he'd signed without approval. More importantly, we rewrote the family charter. Any major financial decisions now required 2 sign-offs. Staff contracts included protections for wrongful dismissal. And yes, equity shares were restructured. I now own 25% of the business, not because I demanded it, but because I earned it. My parents? We're healing. Slowly. They still struggle to admit what they overlooked, but actions speak louder than apologies. Last week, Dad walked into the back office during a hectic Saturday check-in rush. He didn't say much, just dropped off 2 fresh coffees and said, "You're doing a hell of a job." That was enough. They gave my brother the crown, but I knew how to run the kingdom, and when the time came to defend it, I didn't shout. I strategized. It's funny how fast a person disappears once the power is gone. The week after the vote, Ryan's name was removed from the website, scrubbed from email signatures, and whispered out of conversations. He didn't say goodbye to the staff, didn't send a final email. He just vanished. And yet, the mess he left behind lingered like smoke in a room with no windows. We spent the first few days sorting through the wreckage. Unpaid invoices to vendors Ryan had promised exposure instead of actual payment. A now-defunct Instagram campaign that had cost us nearly $6,000 in influencer fees for 0 bookings. And the kicker, a backdoor agreement with a liquor distributor that required a minimum spend locked in for a year. It would have sunk us if we hadn't caught it. I called a full staff meeting. I didn't sugarcoat it, didn't try to play savior. I stood in front of the tired, anxious faces of the team who'd ridden every wave of this storm and said, "You've been lied to, manipulated, overworked, and I'm sorry." Then I paused. But that ends today. We're building forward together. And one by one, hands started to rise. Not in applause, but with ideas, how to regain customer trust, how to return to our core identity, even how to repurpose Ryan's cocktail lounge into a cozy event space for local authors and musicians, something that actually matched our guests. They weren't just staff, they were builders. And finally, I was listening. Meanwhile, the firm, Anderson's team, moved quickly. They flew in a legal advisor to assess remaining liabilities, and that's when something wild happened. The lawyer uncovered an unsigned amendment Ryan had drafted in secret. He had attempted to transfer a portion of intellectual property rights, our branding, marketing slogans, and hotel logo to a shell company he created 3 months earlier. You read that, right? He wasn't just trying to run the hotel. He was trying to own it, piece by piece. This was no longer just reckless. This was actionable. We compiled the documents, screenshots, and digital trails. And with Anderson's legal team behind us, we filed a cease and desist against Ryan's company and initiated a claim for attempted IP fraud. Ryan tried to fight it. His lawyer sent a flurry of emails full of threats and posturing. But it didn't last, because in legal terms, Ryan had no standing. He never had board approval, never had equity, and never had the authority to act on behalf of the Driftwood. Within weeks, he backed off, signed a non-compete agreement, agreed to forfeit any remaining claims. It was clean, precise, and deeply satisfying. But justice didn't stop there. The final twist, as life would have it, came from the community itself. One of our longtime guests, Miss Grohr Loretta, who'd stayed at the Driftwood every summer since 1997, posted a heartfelt story on Facebook about her recent stay. Claire greeted us personally. The same Claire who used to deliver fresh cookies to our room when she was just a teenager. The hotel feels like home again. Her post went viral in the local travel group. Bookings surged. Our review scores rebounded, and a local paper reached out to do a feature story titled, "How One Woman Quietly Took Back a Family Legacy and Made It Flourish." I didn't do the interview for vanity. I did it for every woman who's ever been sidelined for being the quiet one, the helper, the reliable background. Because sometimes the strongest leadership is the kind that doesn't announce itself. It just works, listens, builds, and when necessary, strikes back with grace and precision. They gave him the title, "I Reclaimed the Vision." And when the dust settled, I didn't just take back the hotel. I took back myself. There's a moment, after the battle's over, after the last email's sent, after the boardroom has gone quiet, when you sit alone, cup of coffee in hand, and it hits you. You didn't just survive. You won, not with screaming, not with ultimatums, but with strategy, silence, and a kind of focused fury they never saw coming. That's what I felt as I stood behind the reception desk of the Driftwood one golden evening, watching the sea breeze flutter the welcome brochures I once designed. Guests laughed on the terrace. Kids kicked up sand in the distance. And inside, our team, my team, moved with confidence and purpose, no longer looking over their shoulders. It had taken exactly 147 days to dismantle everything Ryan tried to build and rebuild what mattered. We rebranded, gently, intentionally, keeping the soul of the hotel while modernizing its voice. We installed solar panels with the support of a local grant, and we launched a mentorship program for young hospitality interns, especially young women who often got overlooked, just like I once was. And me? I finally put my name on the masthead, Claire Langford, Chief Operating Officer. The Driftwood Inn. No asterisk, no footnote, no interim before the title. Mom started showing up more quietly after that, not to manage, just to watch, to listen. One day, she pulled me aside after a busy Saturday brunch rush and handed me an envelope. Inside was a photo of me at age 6, sitting behind the front desk, feet not even touching the floor. On the back, in her handwriting, "You were leading long before we realized. I'm sorry it took so long to see it." We didn't cry. We're not that kind of family. But for the first time in decades, I felt seen. As for Ryan, he moved to Portland, started some kind of craft beer meets digital nomad venture. We haven't spoken since the settlement, and I'm at peace with that. Some people exit your life quietly. Others get escorted out by legal counsel. Either way, not everyone deserves a front row seat to your healing. What I've learned is this: sacrifice without boundaries becomes expectation, and silence, when used wisely, becomes a weapon they never see coming. I don't regret giving up my condo. I don't regret the sleepless nights or the fight that followed. Because in the end, I didn't just protect a hotel. I reclaimed my place, not as the helper, not as the fallback, but as the architect of my own future. If you've made it to this part of the story, let me leave you with this. You don't have to yell to be powerful. You don't have to beg to be valuable. And you never have to apologize for playing the long game. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to sit still while the storm spins around you and wait for the exact right moment to act. Because when it comes, make no mistake, they will remember who you are. Have you ever watched someone else take credit for what you built? Drop it in the comments if you've ever been the foundation beneath someone else's spotlight. Or drop it if you've ever quietly strategized your way back into power. Tell me your story, or tell me what you do in mine. Subscribe for more stories like this, because there's a whole world of underestimated women rising quietly. And trust me, we've only just begun. They gave him the crown. I built the kingdom. And in the end, I signed the deed.